Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Go Ballistic here on the Scottish SunSport YouTube channel, where it was another weekend filled with anger, fan discontent as well, despite the fans telling where to go. Russell Martin is still the Rangers head coach today. Celtic back on top after a bit of VAR drama at Rugby Park, where their fans weren't too happy either, and Aberdeen's woes are going on as well. So plenty to get stuck into today. Don't forget you can get in touch with us at goballistic@thesun.co.uk as well, and we'll put your points to the guys. And as you can see, we've got Kenny MacDonald here with us this week, very smartly dressed, bringing the attire game up a notch once again, as always.
The best I've ever seen somebody dressed in that seat.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
It's not hard to beat, is it? It's not hard to beat.
No.
The low bar.
A very low bar. And then obviously, as you can see and hear, a man that never elicits any fury or anger or discontent at all. Isn't that right, Kris Boyd?
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely. Right, speaking of that anger, let's go first of all to Ibrox, where there certainly was plenty of that. Rangers losing 2-0 to Hearts on Saturday. Russell Martin, before kick-off, talking about how pleased he was to get to the end of the window, lauded the time he had in the training pitch, happy with the squad. Minutes later, it's gone to pot already. The worst it's been yet, you have to say. 47 years since Rangers didn't win any of their first 5 games in the league season. It's happened again. Team that can't score, no improvement. But he's still the manager today. Big exclusive last night from Robert Grieve and Andy Devlin that Andrew Kavanagh spoke to Martin on Sunday, and after it, Martin still has the support of the American Supremo. So Boydie, we'll come to you first. Russell Martin, still the Rangers manager today, despite all of that. What on earth is he saying to the owners to convince them he's still the man with all that's going on?
Oh, I really don't know. It's maybe a case of the owners still sticking to their guns and hoping that it's going to work. They don't want to put their hands up and admit they've got it wrong. I think when you've taken over a club, you know there's going to be bumps in the road. Hence the reason why usually that's where a takeover happens. But I don't think that anybody at Rangers would envision that this was going to be the start to the season that they had, and potentially looking at that the removal of another manager mid-season. But that's where it's at. We speak about fan unrest, and these are the guys that pay their money. They're the guys that work hard all week. And I've got to say, if you are, we know times are hard as it is right now, and if you're spending your money to go to Ibrox, to go to something where you're meant to enjoy, be thrilled to watch, it's a million miles away from that. I think even if I go back to the start myself, I thought, at least going to be a style of play about Rangers. Maybe because of Russell Martin in the past, he's had teams that have been down the league. When you're thinking about Southampton, the Premier League, they were still, trying to play in the front foot, trying to make things happen. Yes, defensively, they were making mistakes, but and you thought if you had better players in the league or a better team within a league, he would have more chance of that being a success. And and that's why I thought it would have been a good appointment to start with. But I need to hold my hands up. It's not been great. I think the Rangers fans have made that quite clear. They've had enough. Russell touched on it that a lot of them didn't want him there in the first place. But even if you're not wanted someone to start with, you can convince them. You can start to win games of football, and you can start to get things going in the right direction. It's the opposite. The ones who are maybe saying, I'll back the manager, I want to stick with him, he's the Rangers manager. Right now, there's only one thing going to happen, and Russell Martin will have to, be removed of his duties, because it's not going away. I know we'll touch on Celtic later on, and I don't think the fan protests and the way that they are with the board is going away. I don't think the way that the Rangers fans are to the manager right now is going to go away. They've made their feelings clear. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd is like on Saturday night. And sometimes, as owners, they weren't. Well, I was led to believe they weren't at the game on Saturday. I'm not sure if Patrick Stewart was there either. Kevin Thelin was there. They would have seen the reaction. 50,000 people singing "You're getting sacked" in the morning. The chorus was started with the Hearts fans. The Rangers fans joined in. After Rangers lose a goal in the first half, it's Martin get to F. But it's nasty, and I can only see one outcome. I don't know what you think, Kenny.
Well, I think I think you're absolutely right, Chris. There's always a tipping point for managers where the game is up. I go back to Scotland, 2009, George Burley. They lose 3-0 to Wales in Cardiff. I was at the game. And they were singing the exact same song the Rangers fans were singing about Russell Martin on Saturday about George Burley. After the game, the press spoke to Gordon Smith, the then SFA president. He said, no, George Burley has our complete backing. He'll remain in position. 48 hours later, he was sacked. So there comes a point when public opinion is such that there is no way back. Now, whether or not Russell Martin has reached that point where there is no way back, I don't know. But if he hasn't reached it, and if things go badly against Hibs on Saturday, it could be very, very close. Rangers in the middle of 4 home games in a row, and the atmosphere is getting more and more toxic. A terrible draw against Celtic. The Hearts game on Saturday, when they could have lost by more goals. They now play a Hibs side who are scoring for fun, and then they're in Europe against Genk, and we know how the last game against a Belgian team went for Rangers. So they're halfway through 4 home games where the atmosphere could be very, very difficult for Russell Martin if he is still there for the next 2.
I think as well, though, you know, Kenny, you've come to a lot of games at Ibrox, and I've obviously played, and I've been to a lot of games, and I mean, it's a fantastic place to play football if you're winning games of football. It's a difficult place if you're not winning games, and I can understand, Russell speaking about the anxiety and people look nervous and the players look nervous. But you've got to find a way to overcome that. That's character. That's being a Rangers player. That's what it takes. And Rangers, and it's not all on Russell Martin. You go back to Rangers, obviously lost to Queen's Park. They've played 16 home games since then. They've won 5. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. When you speak about, you go back to when I was playing, and even before I signed with Rangers, there's that fear factor. There's that fear of, I'm going to Ibrox today. If the crowd, you try and silence them for 5-10 minutes. You don't even need to do that now. You just turn up and play a game of football against Rangers and you beat them. They've got absolutely nothing about them. For me, I look at, there is good players there. There's no. I mean, there is some good players there. They've shown that in games. But whether it's the tactics, whether it's the shape, whether you can go on and on and on. But the players have got to show more courage. They've got to. I mean, even in Saturday, I looked at, and I know I feel bad here because you're singling out a young boy, but I look at Mikey Moore going across to take that corner kicks. For me, it was the last thing he wanted to do. He might be a confident young boy, and he might be, but the last thing he wanted to do was go over there, and there's rumblings in the corner, and people are on him and shit. Whereas I go back to my time, and like people like Charlie Adam and that, who might not have been in the team, Charlie would have swaggered across there and said, "This is an opportunity for me to put a ball in a sixpence for somebody to go and header it in the back of the net." Rangers just look nervous in every single thing they're doing. Going to get a throw in, taking their time because it's as if there's nobody really showing for this ball. If I'm even standing at the side of the pitch with a ball about to throw it in, I'm getting booed. I'm getting shouted at. The fans they've had enough. And as I said, the manager's getting it right now. But there'll come a stage, we know how this works in football, there'll come a stage where they forget the manager because to them, he's finished anyway. Then all of a sudden, it's Patrick Stewart that's got to answer questions. Then it's Kevin Thilwell, Kevin Thilwell and Patrick Stewart. Then Andrew Kavanagh will be brought into it as well. And the last thing you want as owners and of a football club is for you to get it. And as Kenny says, there's a tipping point. For me, it's already spilt over. The fans have had enough. But
there is always culpability in multiple areas. Russell Martin, as you say, is getting the brunt of it. But the recruitment process has been terrible. I don't know if you agree, Chris, but the recruitment, they've brought in Max Aarons, doesn't play on Saturday. Joe Rothwell doesn't play on Saturday. They haven't had a decent left-back since Borna Barisic left in the summer of 2024. Since then, they've tried Ridvan Yilmaz, not good enough. Jeffrey, not good enough. It's harsh on the lad from Brentford, Magoma, 19 years old, but they brought him up from essentially academy football. He played 13 league games before he joins Rangers. How can he be expected to suddenly be ready to face Celtic and teams like that? I mean, the recruitment has been very, very puzzling. It's as if they've thought, we'll get some bright young players, we'll put them in, they'll give us, you mentioned Mikey Moore, they'll give us a bit of a spark. None of them have looked up to the job. And when they've gone to the other extreme and brought in Joe Rothwell, who's got over 300 games under his belt, he's 30 years old, he doesn't look good enough either. He's only played 30 odd games for Bournemouth in the Premier League. The rest have all been in the lower leagues. I would hesitate to hold Celtic up as an example of how it should be done, but they clearly have doubts about Kieran Tierney's fitness. So they go out and they sign on loan a 27-year-old Uruguayan international in Sirachi, who's battle-hardened and can come in and play. Rangers don't look as though they've looked at this situation with that kind of forward thinking, and that's part of the problem.
Kenny, I've touched on it loads of times regarding Rangers and the recruitment, and it looks as if, you know, that what's going on right now is going to be added to a long list of terrible signings after signings. For me, I get it. It's right in front of our eyes. You know, we can't help but watch, you know, English football. It's on 24/7. It's right there. But I mean, there's some games there that are terrible as well. I cover enough of it to realise that, you know, the standard is not what everybody makes out to be. The elite are the elite. There's no getting away from that. But there's a lot of average games as well. And I look at, you know, the recruitment process, and you've got to. People say, oh, you need to get winners in. You can't be a winner until you start winning. But you can actually look at the characters and then start to see, you know, where they're at. And if you can't really, you know, build a profile from the individuals, you've then got to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is where are they coming from? For me, when you look at Todd Cantwell was one of the better players in the Championship. There is no arguing with that. You know, done really well. Tom Lawrence, a very, very good footballer as well. Obviously had these injury problems, but Ben Davis and Kieran Dill, they were players that we thought, you know, they look okay. They failed. Why would you continuously go back to a market that has failed and try to bring them up, and then, you know, get them in to Ibrox with the pressures, the demands of having to win every single week? It's a difference. You might be a good footballer, but that doesn't mean to say that you're going to win games of football. You need a different mentality to be a success at Rangers and Celtic. And right now, I don't see it at Rangers. I really don't. You know, there's other ones that you could start to pick holes in. I was criticised a few weeks ago when I said I didn't think the Jager and people like that were an upgrade in Leon Balogun. I'll still stand by that. I think even the manager's now realising that, whipping him off at half time on Saturday. Cornelius came on and listen, I thought he done okay, but you know, I wouldn't be getting carried away. As you say, Kenny, Max Aarons was brought in to replace James Tavernier. Max Aarons can't even get off the bench now. It's just the same things. The biggest worry for me would be the fact that, you know, you've signed a striker that we have seen score goals for fun in this league. He had a little half chance with a header when it bounced in the box. Other than that, what did they have? Maybe 5 or 6. There is no point. And then I listened to people after the game. We should have signed Lawrence Shankland. We should have done this. We should have done that. The thing about it is, Lawrence Shankland would have been the exact same in that Rangers team at the weekend because there was nothing created for him. What you seen from Hearts was a team that, you know, was on the front foot, created. They were solid defensively, but created chances for their forward players. And that's why Lawrence Shankland was so good. But for Rangers, even Gassama, he's probably been the one that was the bright spark on the left-hand side. You're only getting half the player when you put him on the right-hand side. You then look, I don't think James Tavernier's the same player because Gassama hugs the touchline, he can't get round them. It's just, everything's just disjointed.
There's also a terrible lack. Well, people have spoken about the lack of pace in the Rangers team for seasons and seasons.
I'm not getting involved in that conversation.
But there's also no presence about the Rangers team and the Rangers signings. You used to be able to look at a Rangers team, and I go back a long, long way watching Rangers teams, and there were, even if the team wasn't playing well, there'd be 3 or 4 guys that you could hang your hat on to try and lift a game, grab the game by the scruff of the neck. There is no presence about this team, and you look at them and they just look anemic from the goalkeeper out.
No, I'd agree. I mean, I think, you know, there's players you played with, and people will say, you know, when you speak about a Scottish backbone, and they don't need to play every single week. You go back to Dick Advocaat's era as well, where Rangers were spending absolute bombs bringing in. You can say, I mean, Arthur Newman was world class. There's no getting away from it. You know, top operators in the game of football were arrived at Ibrox, Ronald de Boer and people like that. But they still had a Scottish hardcore. There was still, you know, even when you think of Bob Malcolm, Morris, Ross, Billy Dodds, Neil McCann, Barry Ferguson. They were all there because, they understood the club. They would have drove the standards. They would have helped the players that was coming in from overseas learn what was going on. There's absolutely nothing at Rangers. Nothing. And I just feel right now, the whole club, from being so optimistic about the takeover, everything that was going on in the summer, it's back to where it was. The other thing I'm going to touch on, and I touched on it briefly yesterday in Sky, you look at, what was it, the start of the year, that's the root and branch review into the football department. What has actually been done with that? We were led to believe it was going to take us 12 weeks. I mean, for me, how can you put that time frame on anything anyway? But led by Patrick Stewart, where is the answers? What actually came out of that? I mean, that would have been another fortune that was spent. What came out of that?
And this has been the communication at the club has been a problem. I know Celtic, Brendan Rodgers touched on it with Celtic last week, but the communication Rangers have is also inept because supporters, as you say, you can't fool supporters. They're watching that. That's why they reacted so poorly on Saturday when they saw the way the Hearts game was going. They want answers as much as anybody else does.
What are we going for a crowd on Saturday?
Disgruntled?
I'm saying under 25.
And they're playing against a Hibs team who, as I say, are playing well, scoring a lot of goals, always in the attack. So it could be another tough day if Russell Martin is still there.
You mentioned the communication there. I've got a quote from Parag Maratha from way back at the very start when they took over. And what he said the day the takeover was confirmed was, if Andrew and I are doing our jobs well, you won't hear from us much. We'll speak when we have something to say. We want our actions to speak for themselves. And if we're doing a good job, that means you won't need to hear from us as much. And that's because we're experiencing success, both short and long term. Well, there's clearly no success just now. So why are those guys not fronting up? Surely just now, from what you've just said there, Kenny, as well, it needs an Andrew Kavanagh or a Parag Maratha to actually put their head above the parapet just now, surely.
Yeah, but as I said, I don't think when you take over a club and for me, when you install a manager, you've got to start looking for the next one. Whether that's good or bad, you've got to identify as a football club what you want. You've always got to, well, for me anyway, I think that's the way that top clubs operate. You would have a contingency plan. You would have, a list of 5 or 6 managers that you would start to follow in their career and say, well, we like the look of him, blah, 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 blah. We might go for him if, if this happens or that happens. But you're already planning. For me, that's what they should be. That's what they should have been doing as soon as Russell Martin was installed as Rangers manager. You go back to the period before that. I mean, why did it take so long? Listen, there might have been complications in terms of the takeover, in terms of everything being signed. Why did it take so long for Rangers to get to this situation with Russell Martin? Was there uncertainty then? I don't know, but there was no doubt since Philip Clement was sacked, Barry Ferguson was interim, there was a large chunk, a period of time that you felt as if Rangers should have had a manager in then. Even it was midway through the summer by the time it happened as well. It wasn't as if it was like the start of the summer. Then it was time to build or get players in and build. There was a lot of transfers toward the end, shall we say? But you then look at it, and for me, I don't think they would have. Well, I don't think they've planned for. Well, I'm saying you've got to have a contingency plan for that, but I don't think they would have planned for having to consider sacking their manager 3 months into a season or 2 months, whatever it may be. I mean, that wouldn't have been on their agenda. But I'll say it again, you have to keep doing it until you get the right person, because if you don't, you're in danger of losing. Well, you're not in danger. You've lost a whole fan base.
There is always I referred to a tipping point earlier on, but there's always a game that does for a manager. Philippe Clement lost to Queen's Park, and although he stuck around, waited a couple of weeks, they lost at home at St Mirren, he was out. Did Saturday feel to you, Boydie, like the beginning of the end for Russell Martin? Whether or not he stays on?
For me, it was the end. I mean, I've never said that. I mean, I know we speak about results and everything, and look, I think when you've got such a large fan base, there will always be, small proportions. It doesn't matter even if you're winning, disgruntled. That's just life. That's just a Scotsman, and that's what happens. The Scottish, you're never happy. But to hear a full stadium, sing what they sang on Saturday, I just felt as if, maybe not Saturday night, but Sunday was definitely going to be the end for Russell Martin. Listen, I think just sometimes you're in the wrong movie. That seems to be the case. Whether, Russell has taken control of a large amount of games as a coach, as a manager at such a young age. Maybe it's something that, Rangers have got to look to a more experienced manager, because there is no doubt that the last few haven't worked. What is next for Rangers? I mean, I don't know, because I don't know. I think in the past you would have been able to say there was a blueprint there of, you would go and look for a certain type of character when you think of, when it went wrong the last time. Well, obviously Walter Smith had left, Dick Advocat came in. You knew where the club was kind of going then. Alec McLeish then took over, but you still knew Alec would stand in the touchlines and Gora understood, Rangers as a football club. Then started to go away from that with Paul Le Guen. But, Sir David Murray was quite quickly realised that wasn't working and went and got Walter back. Then there's obviously been a period of time where it's just been, let's get a manager in. I don't think there's, until now, because of the change of ownership, the Rangers blueprint from the past would have go and get an experienced guy that understands the club, that gets it and everything. I'm not sure what the hierarchy are thinking now. Do the recruitment process seems to be kind of younger players? Are they starting to look at that and maybe bring them in and coach them? Did they go down the line of another head coach coming in, or did they give somebody the keys to the castle again and allow them to go and run the full ship? I think Rangers are in a difficult situation. We speak about our two clubs. Listen, they're huge, but they're pretty unique as well. I don't think you're allowed any time to get your patterns of play, your philosophy, whatever way you buzzwords you want to chuck out. There's only one thing matters in Glasgow, and that's winning. So Rangers need to find somebody, and very quickly find somebody that is going to start. I mean, all we hear is want to win trophies. Rangers need to win games before they can win trophies.
A Rangers fan, Gary Stewart, got in touch with us in the Go Ballistic email address and kind of summed up the mood. Results are a disaster. Team looks scared. Don't seem to have a clue what they're doing. No cohesion, no understanding, like watching an under-5s team. He went on to say the Rangers fans need to start boycotting games, merchandise. Otherwise, if Martin remains in charge, we can get relegated, is Gary's fear. Now, will use that for the next question, and it's kind of two-pronged thing. One, how concerned should Rangers be about actually finishing second this season? And conversely, how confident should Hearts be after the way they've been playing? We saw how good they were again at the weekend. How confident should they be about doing something quite special this season? Perhaps breaking the Old Firm?
I think we'll continue with Rangers because we're on that theme right now before we move on to Hearts. But for Rangers, last year you were backed in, and I never felt at any moment that Aberdeen would have finished second. I mean, I was pretty clear on that. I didn't think they were good enough to do it, because a lot of the times they limped over the line in games at the start of the season. This Hearts team's different. There's a different vibe about Tynecastle. You've got a manager that knows how to win games of football in Scotland. You've seen that in Saturday. You've got someone who understands it. We'll touch on there in a minute. But for Rangers, I still think, I wouldn't rule second out. It's going to be more difficult this season than what it was last season. I mean, for Celtic, they seem to be all over the place right now as well. Off the pitch, but on the pitch, they're still getting results. Have they got the problems? Yes, they have. I still think Rangers will improve, but not to the level of being able to win a championship, unless, as I said, there's a new manager comes in, whoever that may be, and he's able to turn it around pretty quickly. But I think we've covered enough on Russell Martin and the way it's going on at Rangers right now. That the next step for Rangers will be to find a new manager, then see how where it goes from there. It would be game to game trying to get 3 points. For Hearts, I don't think you can help but be impressed, Kenny. I thought they were a team that looked coached defensively, offensively, going forward, created opportunities in sync with each other. Players playing out of position, but they knew their job. When you think of Millen on that right-hand side, obviously thought that Rangers were probably going to play Magoma and Gassama off the left and doubling up there to try and stop that attack. But I thought Millen, even in an attacking sense, got on the ball and got Rangers up got Hearts up the pitch and asked questions of Rangers defensively. And to think, we spoke about Lawrence Shankland being overlooked. There's another manager another guy who you feel as if he probably should have been in that Rangers dugout when you see what has came before Russell Martin. He should have been in that Rangers dugout, and you've got to say it's probably another one that's got away. But Derek McInnes is onto something at Hearts. I mean, you can't help but be impressed, Kenny.
But Hearts, it doesn't surprise anyone that Hearts have started the season well because they have a good manager, a tried and tested manager. But he has also shown, and whether or not he's been a big part of this, is that with proper recruitment, and it might come down to the Tony Bloom blueprint that they have, he's brought in a few new players and they all look as though they're quite comfortable within their own skins, within their own jobs, and that's part of the reason why Hearts have started the season so well.
100%. I mean, there's no getting, when you think of Braga, I thought he was excellent Saturday. The Greek boy off the left-hand side as well. I'm not even going to start pronouncing his name right now. And that's Roger usually just pops in. But,
I said this.
he was outstanding as well. But even when you think of, again, the snobbery from, I would say more so Rangers towards the Scottish players within the league, look at Stuart Finlay. Like, just a proper defender. No, he doesn't need to be fancy. He just goes and defends, and he's obviously got a few goals as well. And we have got players within the Scottish game that would have improved that Rangers team. Listen, it's not to be, but Hearts are reaping the benefit from that. And I mean, they've no European football to concern themselves about. I think we would both agree that, or the three of us would agree that there are probably 3-4 players from the starting team as well that were missing from Ibrox, and it's as comfortable an evening. It's comfortable an afternoon as Derek McInnes and a team would have had going to Ibrox, but because they've done the basics, defended properly, ran harder than Rangers, closed them down, and that should be a given. But it's one thing that Derek McInnes seems to be able to get out of his team is that little bit extra to get them over the line. And I thought Hearts were excellent on Saturday.
Agreed.
One final thought in this game before we move on. Kenny, come to you first. 3 big decisions in this one. All went against Rangers in Hearts' favour. The ball, Lauren Shankland admitting it struck his arm in the build-up to his opening goal. Then there was a disallowed goal for a foul by Asgard and the new Hearts goalkeeper before Cornelius put it in. And then the third decision, the penalty at the very end that Hearts went on to seal the game with. What do you make of the decisions? Rangers hard done by, do you think?
Yes. I think they were hard done by. Less so the first Hearts goal, which I thought was borderline. I thought it was borderline that it hit Shankland's arm. You might get back to this old arm, this T-shirt line thing. I couldn't understand why the Rangers goal that Cornelius put in was disallowed. It just looked like weak goalkeeping to me. I didn't think Asgard was guilty of any fouling at all, so I thought that goal should have stood. The penalty I thought was debatable, but I could understand why Stephen McLean gave it and why it wasn't overturned. Stephen McLean's not my favourite referee, and I thought, particularly with the Rangers' goal, which was disallowed, that was a poor decision. But the other two, I would put them in the borderline category, and I can understand why they weren't overturned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't Steve McLean's best afternoon. I mean, when you look at the Shankland one as well, he's looking right at it. I mean, I'm not saying you can guess, but when you're there and you see a counter attack and it's probably more towards the handball than what it is not. Why not just blow your whistle? I mean, you're then not getting into territory of the score. I mean, I know it plays on and it's attacking phase of play that you can go back and they obviously thought that it wasn't a handball. But for me, it quite clearly hits off, that part of his arm that is, Kenny says it's on the threshold. For me, I think it's a handball. The second one, 100% right. I mean, you're not allowed to touch a goalkeeper now. And at the time, I thought the referee had blown his whistle. Stephen McLean had blown his whistle and gave a free kick. But then when you see it back, it's not. The ball's went in the net. So obviously VAR have agreed with Stephen McLean as well. So Greg Aiken, you're like, what you seen? I get the fact that Asgard's arm was up a little bit, but for me, the goalkeeper was just so weak. He then pushes Asgard, comes over the top of him. It's a goal. There's no getting away from it. The penalty for me, listen, it is what it is. I think once it was given, it was never going to be overturned. I think it's inconclusive either way to see if there's a definitive touch there, but it was given. But let's not get away from, I mean, we can go on about, listen, it was a bad afternoon for referees in Scotland, or a bad weekend, and I thought even for VAR as well. But that takes nothing away from Hearts, how good Hearts were and how poor Rangers were. I know, the manager will come out and speak about the decisions that changed the game, and it did, right? I get that. But a Rangers team's got to be doing a lot better at home, and that's not. That's just the same as what it's been for a number of weeks now. You can't stand and blame a referee. You can question, what's the decisions and everything, but it would. I mean, the performance would be more concerning for me than the referee's performance.
Sticking with VAR across the rugby park yesterday, you were there,
Don't get
Boyd.
me started in it. I've already been on a rant.
We're getting you started. Get ready. Come on, rev up. Penalty. 9 seconds of the game. John Beaton sent to the monitor. Ball comes off Robbie D's foot, strikes Lewis May on the arm. Over he goes, comes back. Penalty. Celtic win the game with the last kick. What do you make of that one?
I cannot believe for the life of me a penalty kick was given. You speak about when it hits off yourself and then hits your arm, it's not a penalty. I mean, Robbie D sticks his leg out. Mayo is standing out like to block it, and his hand is out, right? But that is a natural position when you're, putting. It doesn't hit. If James Forrest, I think James Forrest says it. If it hits off Mayo at that point, penalty kick, no doubt. But the fact that it then hits off D's, deflects up, and then hits him. I mean, he's less than a yard away from him. What's he meant to do? And the other thing for me is, and I know we ended up speaking about it yesterday, but there is no way that ball's going in the back of the net. There's no. You can see it's clearly going by. And for me, I thought sometimes, listen, was Greg Aiken? Was Matthew McDermott right to send John Beaton to the monitor to have a look at it to see, right? Okay, make your mind up. Yeah, I mean, it's as a handball. I mean, but as I said, you've then got to take into consideration how it's managed to hit his hand. I would expect John Beaton to actually stay strong when he's went there. He's an experienced referee. He understands the game, and I just cannot, for the life of me, understand why someone. You can give a penalty when it hits somebody less than a yard away from you, deflects up, hits the hand, and it's not going in. But listen, it even, by the way, you go back to the throw in as well. The tackle from David Watson, it's a throw into Kilmarnock. I mean, that it's not even debatable.
But what puzzled me about the incident as a whole is that the SFA were really quick to come out with an explanation or a purported explanation of why the penalty had been given, and said that it was because he'd made his body size bigger and that prevented the ball going wherever the ball was going to go, like I think it was going by. But they talk about people, having their bodies in unusual shape of their arms. There is no more unusual shape than having your hands behind your back when the ball goes into the penalty box. This is the most absurd thing that the SFA keep banging on about altering the body shape. As you say, Chris, it's natural for a football player to put his arm up just when the ball is coming close to him, not because he's trying to handle it, just because of, forward motion. So it's a preposterous argument, and it just muddies the waters about referees trying to explain decisions and why they were given still further.
Well, I think there was nothing more than the muddy water scenario there is when you listen to Stuart Kettlewell's interview after it. I mean, if he's been told one thing, then I can understand why he was so frustrated. Because if he has been told, only a few weeks ago as well, what his take on it, to then for a different take on it a few weeks later, you can totally understand why he was angry with the decision, because again, we focus on usually the how bad the big clubs have been when they drop points or lose a game or whatever. But I've got to say, Kenny, I don't know about you, but I thought Kilmarnock were excellent yesterday as well. Yeah. I mean, for Derek McInnes moving on, Stuart Kettlewell going in, have to assemble a new squad and get some. He's signed, he's recruited really well. But not only that, I think they had a few injuries yesterday as well, and then having to go back to people like Rory McKenzie and that to come in and the shift that he put in the middle of the pitch. And the recruitment for me at Kilmarnock has been really good. Listen, I know they've still not won a game in the league. They've got a quarter-final of a cup against St Mirren on Friday night that they'll be looking forward to, a chance to go back to Hampden if they overcome St Mirren. But Stuart Kettlewell, I think Because I think because of the change and you know the amount of players that left, a lot of people have been looking at Kilmarnock and saying, "Oh, they're going to struggle this year," but they've settled in pretty well. And I mean, that great header from David Watson, who I thought was excellent yesterday. I mean, they asked questions of Celtic yesterday.
No, and also in the aftermath of David Watson's equaliser, they looked the more likely team to win the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're right. And I mean, even Stuart Kettlewell, they go 1-0 down. I mean, I must say, fantastic ball in. You know, I know it's throwing at Kilmarnock, but fantastic ball in. Daisen Maeda's movement to get across the front and then get the header. I mean, it was an unbelievable header as well. You know, once he builds up that pace, you're never getting back at him. But you've got to then give Stuart Kettlewell a lot of credit as well, because he changed it. He went to the back four. He got on more attacking players, asked questions of Celtic defensively. Greg Kiltie's delivery when he came on as well was outstanding. David Watson, as I said, that aggression to go and you know, score the goal he did. But again, listen, we can debate the penalty and the start, but you've got to praise Celtic as well. You know, it wasn't the best afternoon, but they just find a way to win games of football, and that's what, you know, champions do. You know, that's what winners do. They just keep going and going and going. They find a way to get over the line. You know, you look at it yesterday, as I said, we debate the penalty, but you just keep going and asking questions. And I mean, the two wingers, I mean, one obviously worked at half time, wasn't great, but it looks as if the Tunisian boy is another outstanding find for Celtic in that area.
Well, Celtic got the win, Kenny. A team that would love a win at the moment are Aberdeen. That's where you were at Pittodrie on Saturday, and it probably sums up the game. You started.
What did you do to deserve to be sent up there, Kenny?
You had a great scran before it, didn't you?
I was keen to test the new steak and black pudding pie they have at Pittodrie, and it's a winner. If the only thing about Aberdeen at the moment, it is a winner, but it's a winner. That's
the last thing I need, is another stadium with a decent pie.
Well, I recommend it. I recommend it, even for you.
For a while. Never mind that. Right on the pitch, how was it?
Well, I mean, Aberdeen. I've got a sneaking admiration for Aberdeen support, because I think they're very, very passionate and positive about their team. But I just think Jimmy Thelin gets such an easy ride. 1 point from the last 8 league games is a scandalous record for a club of Aberdeen's size. And I know Aberdeen fans, and I heard the geography of Pittodrie is after we finish our match reports, we will actually walk down Pittodrie Street to go back in to the stadium for the press conference. And I heard a couple of Aberdeen fans saying, well, thank goodness we won the cup, because it's been terrible before then, it was terrible again today, and it's been terrible. And I just think the cup has covered over so many failings in Aberdeen. Now, I would give them the benefit of the doubt. Jesper Karlsson, who they signed on loan from Bologna, looks like a terrific addition. He brought a lot of pace into the team, and he was their one bright spark. But their record is simply terrible. And they now have, in the next 3 games, 2 games against Motherwell, 1 in the Premier Sports Cup, and 1 against Dundee United. So if these 3 games don't go well, I think people are going to be beginning to ask serious questions of Jimmy Thelin.
No, I agree. I mean, listen, I know people think, oh, it's like me having a go at Aberdeen, but I've been saying it for a while now. I mean, it's you touching one point out of 8, which is a disgrace. But what's an even bigger disgrace is it's 5 wins in 31. 5 in 31 since November. You know, since Aberdeen were on that terrific run. I mean, it's been abysmal. And by the way, you speak about managers being backed. Jimmy Thelin, whenever you think, oh, here we go again, there might be a wee opportunity here for, there might be a change in the manager. They just go and bring in more players. And by the way, it seems to be players that they're actually paying more money for, and it'll be wages. You think of Kevin Nisbet, there's another international. How was he on Saturday?
Got taken off about 20 minutes for the end. Didn't have much to feed off, in fairness to him. Lazatic came on against a tiring defence and looked a bit more likely.
Yeah. You know, as I said, I mean, we go back to, you know, I know because of the change and everything, we can't really all focus back in, but you go back to Aberdeen's, when they had that terrific start, their back four very rarely changed. The goalkeeper, Meathoff, the back four was steady. There was changes in front of that, rightly so, you're going to change. But I just look at Jimmy Thelin now, and it's change after change. Even when he makes substitutions, you're moving fullback to another fullback, you're moving fullbacks into midfield, or midfielder back to fullback. You know, it just seems all disjointed. And they just keep throwing money at it. I mean, Swedish international arrives, Kevin Nisbet arrives, a Scottish international. They're going to have to start winning games of football. And I think what we forget as well, Saturday was against a team that got promoted in Livingston. They got beat 2 weeks ago from the other promoted team in Falkirk. It's not as if it's, you know, the ones where you would expect to go to Pittodrie and cause them problems. This is 2 promoted teams that have went to Pittodrie, taken 4 points off them, and you now look at, Kenny, you're 100% right. I mean, they've got Motherwell in the cup. If they go out of that, you're then, I mean, they'll probably, they might even end up drawing that in penalties the way Motherwell are playing right now. That's how they seem to do, isn't it? But
it's definitely a big game for them on Saturday. A big game.
And then Dundee United, you know, we might touch on them in a minute as well. But Jim Goodwin's another one. Deserves enormous credit for what he's done at United, rebuilding a football club, a group of players that lost them as well. But I mean, it'll be a difficult game. That's the rearranged one from the European, isn't it? They called off here. So I mean, that'll be a difficult place to go as well. But you kind of get the feeling that Jimmy Thelin now in borrowed time at Aberdeen. As you say, the fans, they might be ecstatic about, you know, lifting the cup, but it wears off. You know, and you look at the table, if they're sitting bottom right now, and I mean, they might be having a laugh at Rangers just a couple of places above them, but they've got to concern themselves. And it's not been good enough. And you feel as if now it might just be these next couple of weeks that, I mean, where do Aberdeen go though? If you've invested so much in a manager, backed a manager so much, and there is no doubt that Jimmy Thelin has been backed.
Well, just touching Dundee United there, you mentioned them there, Boydie. Cracking game against Hibs on Saturday, 3-3. Game of the season so far for you?
Yeah, you've got, I mean, both teams, I mean, said there with Jim Good, his recruitment. The boy Dolchek for me is an unbelievable thing. Stevenson as well, coming back up from, what do you call it? Liverpool on loan. I think that was a good addition towards the end of the transfer window as well. But Jim Goodwin deserves enormous credit for you know, rebuilding the club. And I mean, he had that 6-7 weeks at Aberdeen where it just everything fell you know, fell on top of him, and it was done. I mean, there was no coming back after losing to Darwin in the cup, and then obviously I think it was at Edinburgh he went to Hibs and got absolutely thrashed. And I mean, that was it. And then you think to yourself, where is he going to go? Where does Jim Goodwin go from here? Goes to Dundee United. They go down. They obviously see something in him, allow him to rebuild the football club. And last season, top 6, fantastic. Well, top 4th. You know, an unbelievable season. And then you think there might be a drop-off. I think they might actually have improved their team. It'd be difficult for them to get, you know, back in that position because I think the other ones in and around them, Hearts are stronger this year as well. So for them to get back up is going to be a tough ask. But the recruitment from Jim, again, has been outstanding. Excellent game. To go to Easter Road, score 3 goals. Very unlucky not to win the game. But you've got to give Hibs credit as well. They never give up. I mean, I know it's a penalty kick right at the end as well, Chevelle. Debatable whether it's a red card or not. It would have been a second yellow. So he was going off the field anyway. But whether it was a red card or not, I mean, I think that'll be another thing that the SFA need to clear up as well. I don't think it is a red card. It's a second yellow, which would have led to a red card, but it is different. But take nothing away from Hibs as well. And Bowie again in the score sheet. He's an exciting prospect for me. Really, really like him.
But despite his red card, Seville, I think, a terrific player. Yeah. And everything that a club like Dundee United needs. Tough, good with the ball, knows how to use it, physical, a terrific player. Unfortunate, I thought, on Saturday to get red carded.
Yeah.
Thought you were describing yourself there, Kenny, for a moment. Right, listen, that was brilliant today, guys. A heck of a lot to get through. Might need to lie down after that. Boydie, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for gracing us with your presence this week. And don't forget,
Kenny, you should come back most weeks. That was good today. That was really good. The other ones that usually do are absolute rubbish.
Well, that's good, wasn't it?
This is Hannah's sitting his speedos somewhere. Grieve will be in another day off. Devlin will be in a day off.
Business as usual. Business as usual.
All taking days off where we're in Grafton.
Didn't realise you did the rota for this place, Boyd.
It's not hard on a Monday, is it? Everybody just takes a day off.
Never, never. All systems go in this place. Thanks a lot. Tune in next week. We're back here, same time, same day as always. Cheers.
Thank you.